Okay, good evening and welcome to our episode 29. As always, we'll start with our gratitude attitude. So, if you will, please gently close your eyes, take a deep breath. As you exhale, relax your body. Take another deep breath, and when you breathe out, relax some more. Take one more deep breath, and this time, completely relax yourself. Now, think of one thing that happened to you in the last week that you are thankful for. Once you have identified that, think about why you are thankful. Now, let's set it free. If you are by yourself, say it out loud what you are thankful for and why. If you are with someone, tell it to each other. Okay, so just a quick reminder before I start. Um, for those of you who are new, we usually take different topics of discussion uh, every week. They vary from simple topics to intermediate topics to profound topics. uh, Last couple of weeks we talked about generosity, gratitude, etc. Today we are talking something deeper on renunciation. So when someone says renunciation, people have all kinds of ideas. They think it's about leaving your family or getting away from it all and going to some cave to meditate. That cannot be further from the truth. So let's demystify renunciation today. Renunciation means a spontaneous wish to attain liberation, mukti, from Sansara. So this requires a careful look at the definition of Sansara. For a lot of people who are of Indian origin, Sansara typically means day to day life. But that's not Sansara at all. Sansara is this endless cycle of birth and death. If you think about it, we've been going through this cyclical process, birth, death, birth, for eons. Idea is to get out of their wheel. Why would we want to get out of this circle, you may ask? If you look at it, Sansara is full of suffering. We go through the suffering of birth, aging, sickness, delusion, death, and then once it's over, rinse and repeat. So let's look at each of these individually. Any woman who has given birth will tell you it's no joke. If the full grown adult is having so much pain, can you imagine what a baby is going through during the birthing process? Even before the birth, in the mother's womb, the baby goes through suffering. When a mom drinks something cold, baby feels like she's taking a cold shower. Exactly the opposite when mom drinks something hot. Once we are born, for initial weeks and months, we don't know how to convey our wants and needs. The only thing we know is to cry and move our limbs just to get attention. That has to be a frustrating experience. Not being able to communicate you are hungry or you are in pain is frustrating. As we grow, the suffering of sickness is one of those things that can sneak up on us anytime. When sickness strikes even the most healthy amongst us, we can get knocked out. It can take away our daily joys and make us feel unpleasant. When we feel ill, it's like a soaring bird that gets shot, comes straight down to the earth. We have no strength. We get frustrated and sometimes are dependent on others for everyday activities. Our medical team may or may not be able to help us. If our sickness is incurable and if we are not exposed to spirituality, we may feel anxious, fear, regret, etc. No one can escape from this next suffering called aging. All of us age, and with age comes age related issues. Simple task of getting up and down becomes a chore and is painful. When we were young, we could travel around the world, but in old age, getting out of the house to go to the mailbox is difficult. We may lose our eyesight, ability to hear, our memory may fade. We tend to repeat ourselves. Quite frankly, I feel like I'm already experiencing that one. Things we used to enjoy when we were young no longer appeals to us. At the time of our death, we don't want to let go of the possessions we have accumulated. We feel sorry about leaving our loved ones. We have to leave everything and everyone we are attached to, and that creates sadness. There are other sufferings beyond these four basic sufferings of birth, sickness, aging, and death. We all suffer from our delusions. None of us are beyond that, right? These delusions bring us anger, attachment, hatred, confusion, jealousy, and so on. When we get angry, for example, sometimes we even feel physical pain. Anger also creates tremendous mental suffering. It affects our health. These sufferings prevent us from enjoying life. We also suffer from environmental factors, such as the recent weather extremities in Texas, that causes people to lose their shelter, put them in temporary displacement, and so on. We suffer from not having our desires fulfilled. Everyone wants something more, right? Even when our desires are fulfilled, they may not get fulfilled the way they want to be. With wealth comes its own issue. So, as you can see, the cycle of birth and death tends to bring suffering. Only way out is to strive for liberation, meaning that we stop that cycle of birth and death. We should make a spontaneous wish to get out of this cycle and make a determination to attain inner peace. And that's what renunciation means. It's not about leaving your family, it's not about going to cave. It's about making a determination that I want inner peace, which comes with liberation, free from all attachment, anger, hatred, jealousy, etc. So, in our meditation practice, we'll use a technique called black and white meditation. As always, at first, we'll settle down at our heart. Then we'll imagine that all of our stress is gathered at our heart in the form of thick smoke. We'll breathe in light and we'll breathe out this thick smoke of stress. We'll practice this for a while and then enjoy the peace that brings us. So, if you're ready, let's get into our meditation posture. Please sit in a cross legged position. If you are on a chair, just make sure your legs are straight, your back upright. Gently close your eyes. Keep your mouth just a little bit open. Any tension you have in your jaws will melt away if your mouth is open. Put your palms in your lap, right over left, thumbs gently touching. Now, take a deep breath. As you exhale, relax yourself. Bring your attention to your nostrils and sensation of your breath. Feel the cool air as you breathe in. Feel the slightly warmer air as you breathe out. Focus on your breathing for about a minute or so on your own. Now, bring your attention to your heart. Imagine everything that happened before this moment melts away in light. Things that have not yet happened doesn't matter anyway. Stay in this moment. Enjoy the peace this moment brings. Let it build on top of each other and get into deeper peace. Any stress, anxiety, fear you may have, just imagine it gathers around your heart in the form of thick black smoke. Now, as you breathe in, imagine you are breathing in light, and as you breathe out all that thick smoke, stress, fear, anxiety. Breathe in light, breathe out thick smoke of stress, anxiety, etc. Continue with this practice for about a minute or so on your own. Now, enjoy the peace at your heart. That's your real nature. That's who you are. If you find yourself thinking different thoughts, go back to breathing light and breathing out smoke for about 3 breaths. The peace you find yourself at, that is your true nature. During your day, if you find yourself unsettled, take about 5 breaths, deep breaths, and remember your true nature. When you're ready, gently open your eyes. Okay, any questions?
Uh, you know,
Hanga,
we talked about this શું કહેવાય કે આપણે લાઈફ ડેથની સાયકલમાંથી ફ્રીડમ મળે.
right?
ઓકે, it's very different type of question, like probably logical. What happens afterwards?
So, if you are free from birth and death cycle,
Yes.
so there are two options. Again, I haven't experienced this, so this is what I'm reading. Okay,
That's
I'm
why
just putting it out there. uh,
every
so there are two options. One is liberation, which means that you stop this cycle of birth and death. You are in this state of no more pain, no more suffering. You don't have to come back in any realms, right? See, right now, when someone dies, a living being dies, right? We don't know where they will end up based on their karma. Once you have liberation, you stop that cycle. So you are in the state of no more suffering. The next stage from there is enlightenment. So if you strive for enlightenment, and let's say you achieve enlightenment in one lifetime, it's rather difficult, but it's doable, they say. Then you have a choice to come back in whatever arena you think where you can help most people attain liberation or enlightenment. So people who are enlightened, I shouldn't say word people, living beings who are enlightened usually come back in some form to help other living beings get liberated or enlightened. So two stages. If you stop that cycle of birth and death, either you could be you know first stage is easy, not easy, but simple stage is liberation. But if you truly want to help other living beings, then you want to attain enlightenment, which is difficult than liberation for sure. But I don't have personal experience. I just want you to know that.
Yeah, yeah, that is true. Uh, it's a very philosophical thing that what happens at the end of the cycle,
Right?
that are in some different stage or different form, and again, it's a totally hypothetical or philosophical thought that what happens to you, and like as you said, that liberation is the one thing, or enlightenment is the second higher stage,
Right.
and you come back on earth probably as a saint or as a spiritual leader.
Right.
Probably that's one way of putting the things physically.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could see. It doesn't have to be saint or spiritual leader. It could be someone who just helps other people, right? You could say Mandela, or you could say Gandhi, or you could say Martin Luther King, right? So you could say some of those people. Um, we don't know, but it could be in any form. What I'm trying to say is, it could be just in a form of a doctor who selflessly helps everybody, right? So it could be in many different forms. We just don't know. Uh, and that's the truth, that we just don't know. But you're right, it is one of those philosophical things. But one thing, if you look at any religion in the world, right? You look at Christianity, Hinduism, Islam, Judaism, any religion you look at, they all are somehow guiding towards some kind of liberation. If not enlightenment, everyone has some form of liberation in their scriptures. So maybe say something to it.
I think every religion talks of that you get the freedom from the pain which is there
Right.
as described, starting from the birth to the
Right.
death. So you liberated from that pain
Right.
one way or other way, basically.
Exactly.
And it
Exactly.
all depends on your thought process, your inclination, and probably your own uh, karma of the past and of the current life, basically.
And you use the interesting phrase thought process, right? This is all about, if you look at any religion, right? And this is more about spirituality to me than religion, of course. uh, but they all talk about changing your thought process, and that's the key to any spiritual progress, is to getting away from your dogmatic thought process, if you will, right? And looking beyond it. um, they all talk about helping people beyond yourself, right? They all talk about thinking about bigger things than yourself, right? So all of that again leads you to this changing the thought process in a way that you can get away from this cycle of suffering. I don't know whether it makes sense or not. Was it a word vomit?
Well, it's that you get liberated from the pain or not, but at least as a you change your thought process, you are more happy.
Yep.
And if you are happy,
You
means
liberated from your pain.
you are pain.
so so at that level it makes sense, right? So
If nothing else, if you are happy, at least whatever way you are
exactly.
happy, and it is pain.
Exactly. Exactly. So any other questions? Okay, so let's call it a day here. What we'll do is I'm going to stop